Okay. So, kita ba ninyo? Were you able to vote? Hello?
Ay, excuse me, sir. Kanang something went wrong siya, sir. Dili siya masubmit.
Hindi siya masubmit. Let me check, ha?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, this one. Makasubmit ra mo? Were you able to submit?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think you were able to submit with it. Okay. 15. 19 out of 32, no, 19 responses yet. So anyhow, so based on this result from your responses, I'd say that the average is, what is the average score, the level of confidence is that, you know what, 2.8. So why is it 2.8 out of 5 for the first concept, the first learning objective that we have, which is to define and distinguish the principal abiotic and biotic factors that operate within the biosphere, no? And then, of course, to cite representative example of each. And then the second one, the level of confidence you have as an on average, no? It's 2.7. Then the next one is 2.5, and then the next one is 2.9, then 2.10 as well, followed by 2.3. That's okay. But I really hope that we'll be able to increase that towards the end. No? All right. Now, let's go to the discussion slide, discussion slide. Here. Okay. All right. Um, I think everybody is familiar with the concept of ecology. So when you say ecology, what comes into your mind? Anyone? What is ecology? You're allowed to check any AI tools if you want, but yeah, I would love to hear from you as well. So what is ecology? When I say ecology, what comes into your mind? Uh, ito may maso sa atong ang una-una when we say ecology. Imong ko makakita sa inyong okay, Miss Ayuda. Wait lang ha, I will check my list. HIIS. Miss Ayuda Cherry Rose. Okay, noted. All right. So when you say ecology, mm, ikita na ninyo noon ang definition. Okay, so when you say ecology, um, what comes into your mind? Anyone? Wala mo kayo madunggan yung response from any one of you.
No,
Sa mga makita ang...
Okay,
Okay,
sige.
sige.
Good morning, good afternoon, sir. First word na comes to my mind when I hear the word ecology, sir, kay basically interaction.
Ha?
Interaction, sir. If one word, kasi,
Interaction?
about between...
One word, interaction. What else?
Uh, hello,
How about the
sir.
others? Any other
Me, sir.
student who... Ha?
And sir po, sir.
Okay.
For me, ecology is like what comes to mind when I hear about ecology is a relationship between an organism to another organism and an organism to its environment.
Yeah, okay. So, as Miss Zarina mentioned about interactions, and you also now said relationships between the organisms. Okay, so basically, when we say ecology, so it is a study because it ends with kanang LOGY, which is from a Latin word logos, no? So basically, it's a study of the interactions. And when we say interactions, it also implies relationships between the different organisms and as well between the organisms and the environment. Now, um, in a certain ecosystem or any ecosystem actually composed of both the biotic and the abiotic factors. When you say biotic factors, what do you understand about it? So anyone who would like to volunteer, just mention your name and then you answer.
Good afternoon, sir. Villacora, sir. I think,
Cora.
sir, if when talk about biotic factors is those are the organisms that are living, sir, then nag-inhabit sa kanang environment.
Okay. How about the abiotic factors? Anyone else?
Oh no, sir. Excuse me, sir. Good afternoon.
Yes?
Oh no, sir. For me, ang abiotic factors kay mo ni ang non-living components ato nga ecosystem.
Okay. Mga non-living components of the ecosystem. And when we say biosphere, it's a portion of the earth that is supporting life. Then another layer is within that is you have the biotic factors. We know, I think all of you can also imagine the structure of the earth where there are several layers, right? And then a portion, the surface of the Earth is where we can find the biosphere. A biosphere is a place or a space that actually supports life. But of course, there are some studies as well digging into the core of the Earth have found some bacteria that survive um, the harsh environment out there, but still, even it's a little bit deeper, it is still part of the biosphere. Now, we have the biotic factors. The biotic factors are all organisms that inhabit or nagpuyo in a given environment. So as mentioned, these are the organisms, the living things, as they say. And then we have each organism adapts to its part of the biosphere. So the concept of adaptation is very important as well in the study of ecology because different environments have different characteristics, and at the same time, uh, these organisms that are able to survive this kind of environment are adapted to that particular characteristics of that given environment. So each organism adapts to its part of the biosphere. Now, the abiotic factors, on the other hand, are those non-living parts of the environment. Non-living parts of the environment, can anyone give an example? Mention your family name.
Goria, sir.
Yes, again.
Goria, sir. Goria Clarence, sir.
Okay,
An
Clarence.
example of an abiotic factor is sunlight, sir.
Sunlight. Okay, what? Okay, that's good. What else?
Soil?
Soil. Okay. What else?
Water, sir.
How about the others? Family name, then the example that you will give.
Logo, sir.
Hello? Yes?
Good afternoon, sir. Logo, sir.
Okay.
Water, sir.
Water, of course, water. What? Who else cannot remember water, right? So these are the non-living parts of the environment. Okay? So these the non-living parts of the environment, as I mentioned, these are in any environment that you go, there are different kinds of characteristics, and definitely environments are very harsh. Some environments are conducive to more organisms. Therefore, these non-living components or the abiotic factors, no, these are factors. We say factors. This can affect, the survival of any organism. Collectively, these abiotic factors can determine which species will survive and which species can be eliminated. So that's how things go in the real world. When you say abiotic factors, these are the non-living components that determine which species will survive, right? And of course, an example. So the example, the ecosystem and the center. And of course, the left upper part is an image depicting the different kinds of organisms. And what you can see here, there are three four-legged animals, and there is one bird. So it's three different kinds of species, different kinds of four-legged animals, and an avian organism. Then on the right side, there are several abiotic factors that you can actually see.
Excuse me,
You
sir.
can imagine as well. Yes?
Excuse me, sir. Did you change the slide, sir? Because as of now, we're still on slide 3.
Wala makita ka sa slide 2?
Naana, sir. Naana, sir. It moved na. Thank you. It moved na, sir. Thank you.
Ha?
It moved na, sir. I can see na the
Nag-move na?
biotic.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay. Sige, ako lang siguro ang anahin, no? Alright, so in this image, you can see the ecosystem, but it's a simplified representation of an ecosystem. Because I am sure you've been to a forest, you've been to where else? To the coastal area, have you been to the mangrove ecosystem?
Yes,
I
sir.
suppose,
Yes, sir. Yes,
yeah, I
sir.
suppose
Yes,
for
sir.
us living in the tropical country or living in a tropical country in the Philippines, we can see a lot of these mangrove forests, mangrove ecosystems, especially in Cebu. When you go travel to the south or to the north, by the coast, you will be seeing some mangrove forests. But of course, some are just, kanang gamay na lang kaayo, but the others are also still very thick. And I think in the now they have dense forest of mangroves. Correct? Kasi taga Danao din eh. Or kasi nakaagi na sa Danao. I think na sila yung mga thick forest out there. And an ecosystem, there are several organisms depending on the kind of ecosystem, the ecosystem itself, the characteristics, collective characteristics of the abiotic factors determine the kind of species that you can find there. In the Philippines, there are some forests that host endemic organisms, meaning that they can only be found in the Philippines. But the others are quite common. No, say for example, if you go to Baguio, you can see pine trees. But these pine trees can also be found in other countries. But some ecosystems will only allow some specific organisms. If you go to Antarctica, you can only find those organisms like penguins, like walruses, those organisms that can survive the very cold environment. And then you go to the desert, you go to the Middle East, and the organisms that you will find will be different because these are the organisms that can survive. These are the only organisms that can survive in very hot environment. In the tropical countries like the Philippines, you can find a lot of different kinds of organisms. And in a way, that is influenced by the fact that all throughout the year, the ranges of the characteristics of the organism are not extreme. For example, the summer season is not as it is not go very high in terms of temperature, and during the rainy season or cold months, it's not really that very cold, right? So the ranges, the minimum and the maximum ranges of the range itself, no, the range from minimum and maximum, it's not really that extreme, so that a lot of organisms can actually survive in this range. Unlike in other countries, like for example in the northern part where they have winter, and so the organisms can only the environment can only host the organisms that can survive very cold temperature. But in other countries, they experience extreme um, characteristics of the environment as well. Sometimes the temperature will go as high as 50 degrees Celsius, and on the other months, the temperature can also go as low as 4 degrees Celsius, no? And given that one particular area, a particular organism will experience extreme temperature, for example, very low and very high. So only a few of the organisms can survive that extreme characteristic of the environment. And so it becomes the environment itself becomes very selective, choosing or determining or influencing those kinds of organisms that can survive in the extreme ones, extreme environment. Okay? Then now, I think it's also very important for us to talk now about the levels of biological organization. Of course, with a biological organization, we refer to the um, the living organisms. Of course, that is also part of uh, the the holistic the overall holistic concepts of ecosystem. Now, because we talk about organization, biological organization, in the context of ecology, we talk about the population as the first level of biological organization. No? So the individual itself, in the context of biology in general, is the first level of biological organization. But of course, in zoology, no, in anatomy, that's a different story. Talking about general ecology, the first level is the population. So when you say population, you talk about a group of organisms of the same species living together, meaning they are in the same space. No? So now, a side question. How do you define a species? Anyone? How do you define a species? I will allow you to access any AI in relation to this one. And I just want to hear what you found. So when you say a species, what is it? How do we define a species?
Good afternoon, sir. Ay,
Huh?
good
Can you
afternoon,
please
sir.
speak louder a little bit?
Hello,
Louder,
sir.
please. Huh?
Hello, sir. Can I be heard, yes, sir?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. Hi, sir. I am Hippolito de I, sir. So, for me, sir, what I believe is a species or how it is defined is that it is a group of organisms because, of course, there are organisms on the earth, but the thing is what defines them as a species is that they are capable of breeding and producing fertile offspring, which is like one of the biological species concept, which means that they're gonna keep making until they adapt or etc. Thank you, sir.
So they can, according to the definition, they can mate and reproduce a functional offspring. It is very important to state the word functional because in some cases, some species, some organisms coming from different species can actually mate and produce. Only that the offspring is non-functional in a way, meaning that sterile. One particular example, you have a donkey and a horse. So what is the offspring of a donkey and a horse? We call it mule. Are you familiar with the mule? And the mule is an organism that is sterile, meaning that it cannot reproduce. However, in the recent times, the definition and distinction of the concept of a species becomes a little bit blurry because of new findings. And I want you to read more about that as an assignment. And next time, tell me more about it. Now, the blurriness of the boundary between one species and the other because hybridization is also an important concept that somehow is a process that lead to the evolutionary process of the different species. Okay, so going back to the concept of population, as of now, let's accept the definition of a species that was given a while ago for that the species organisms of the same species are those that can make and reproduce functional offspring. Okay, so we accept that for now, but there are challenges and there are new um, ideas that have been pushed, and the blurriness becomes apparent nowadays, especially of the new scientific findings. Okay, so again, the second concept under the population is that they must compete for resources because they are in the same space and they want the same things because they are of the same population or of the same species. So they must definitely be competing for resources. And then the concept of community in the context of general ecology. The first one is that several populations that interact. A community can only be said as such if there are several populations that interact. These populations can be, or definitely be, coming from different kinds of species, no? Because if they are of the same species and and the in the same space, then they are considered as one population. So a community, several species, several populations of species that interact. And then changes in one population will definitely cause changes in the others, especially that they are interacting and also there are relationships between them. And later on, some of these relationships will be discussed as well. No? So community changes in one population will cause changes in the others. Then the concept of ecosystem. So the ecosystem is an interaction between the living organisms, the populations, and of course the community within and their surroundings. So um, with the interaction, it is an interaction between different populations of different species and their surroundings. And then there are two types of ecosystems, two general types actually, because there are many other specific kinds of ecosystems. So the general types, you have the terrestrial, those pertaining um, to the land. And then you also have the aquatic ecosystems. You have freshwater or salt water, and then you also or salt water. So yeah. So when you say freshwater, this can be the rivers, the lakes, and then as well you have the salt water. No, it can be the coastal area, the deep sea. So these are the saltwater ecosystems. Um, but there are what we call say transition ecosystems or the middle ones like the estuarines. No, is the estuarine ecosystem is an example of a transition ecosystem. Okay, so here you can see here the different levels of biological organizations that are considered in the context of biology in general. You have the individuals, but the individuals in the context of ecology, the more important ones are the populations. So the populations are actually those a group of organisms coming from the same species in the same space. And then you have the community. The community is composed of um, different kinds of populations, different kinds of populations composed of different species. And then you have the ecosystem, those communities within, and the abiotic components. And then the largest ecosystem that we consider is the biosphere on top. But within that, there are several biomes. Biomes influenced by the different kinds of climates. And the climate itself actually could influence the kind of environment. As I mentioned, those areas that experience winter, then you also have areas in the desert. So those are the kinds of biomes. And then the concept of niche and habitat. When you say niche, it refers to the role of an organism being played in the environment. No? So it's quote unquote the job in the community. While habitat, this is where the organisms live. Sometimes they call it the address of the organism. But practically it's the place where they live. Okay. So in the image, you can see the different type of species of warblers and their different niches. Ilang mga niche. Kung asa sila particularly mo live and particularly mo survive and particularly kung sa ilahang dunakaon, no? Those are the things that determine or that influence the niches of these organisms. Then you have the types of feeding relationships. And the first one is autotrophs. I think you are familiar with the different types of feeding relationships now. You have the autotrophs, meaning they are self-feeders, no? Produce their own food. For example, the plants, the algae, or algae. And then for the heterotrophs,
Excuse me,
depends on
sir.
the other organisms for food. When you say
Sir.
heterotrophs, they are classified into different kinds. The herbivore, they eat only plants, no?
Excuse
The,
me, sir.
the carnivore animals, they eat only meat. Hello?
Ang slide, sir, kay wa pala ilis.
Yes, sir.
Wala po ilog. O kana. Kani.
Naana, sir.
Naana, sir. Thank you.
Ano sa, sige. Kung every time ako sa slideshow, muhang siguro siya, no? Sige. So these are the different kinds of feeding relationships. We have the autotrophs, as I said, self-feeders, produce their own food. Example, you can see around the plants, no? Kung mulingi mo sa inyong kilid or likod, wherever you are in the province, you can see a lot of plants. Then you have the algae, no? The algae, uban ani kay microscopic, uban kay large algae, so they can actually produce their own food. Any living organism that can produce their own food are called autotrophs. Then the second type of feeding, the heterotrophs. So these organisms depend on the other organisms to survive. So these other organisms are their food. So when we say herbivore, the herbivore organisms, they eat only plants. The carnivore organisms, they eat only meat. But if they eat both plants and animals, they are classified as omnivores. Okay, so herbivore, carnivore, and omnivore. So these three are different types of heterotrophs, depending on other organisms for their food to survive. The next one, we also have decomposers. The decomposers are those that break down and absorb nutrients from dead organisms, sorry. And so when you go to the forest and you find a log lying on the forest bed or just a floor niya and rotting, you can imagine that there are organisms decomposing that, or even the animals, dead animals. You know, you will see the decomposing animals, so there are bacteria there. In trees, you can also find mushrooms. These mushrooms can be macro that you can actually see. So many of the mushrooms are used by humans as food as well. No, those that can be eaten, dili mga toxic. And often, kung colorful ang mushrooms, those are mushrooms that are toxic to humans. But anyhow, mushrooms and bacteria are classified as among those many kinds of decomposers. Then you also have the concept of commensalism. This one is also an interesting one because the relationship here is kind of a give and take. So when you say commensalism, relationship in which one species benefits and the other, no, it's not give and take in a way, no? One of those symbiosis ang katong give and take. But this one, commensalism, one is benefiting but the other one is not affected, kind of dead man, no? So an example here is the remoras that live on or around a shark's mouth. So they live there. The shark is not affected, but the remoras are enjoying the benefit of being in or around on and around the mouth of the shark. So that's what we call commensalism. One that is benefiting, the other one is not affected. The other one is mutualism. This is the give and take. No, both the species benefit. Sometimes mutualism is called symbiosis, no? Symbiotic relationship, no? So both are benefiting. Example is a tick bird to eating the parasites off of a rhino. So the tick bird is benefiting, having food. Then the rhino is actually benefiting for lessening the parasites na sa iyaha. Comes the sixth one, which is parasitism. So when you say parasitism, one
Sir,
organism benefits and the other is harmed. Ay, wala na ko na move.
sir kanang ang feeling nako sir kanang ang pag wala siya na present ang slide kaya makita na mo bitaw kay ang slide tas ang whole screen
Ay, yeah, full screen.
ang
Okay,
whole
so akong itanawang balik ang
tas inig-move
yung
nimo sir kay
setup.
dili siya mo move sa amo ah.
Pero ako man siyang ikuan. Ako sa sana siya ka ng
Gi-present
slideshow. Kani, okay na?
dili mi makita sir sa slideshow dili pa mi sa kwan kaning
Ay, mako, di makita ang slideshow. Why?
kinsay ka
Ginawa akong kuan.
Darimple
Sige,
maka-explain ka unsaon
Ay, hello sir.
Ano nakita? This one, nakita rin ninyo.
Nakita ra sir. Pero
Dili
dili
na.
siya ang full slideshow. Manually dyan nimo siya i-press sir if mo switch ka.
Sige, pero na ako, clear lang ba gihapon?
yes sir
Oo, yes sir.
Nakita ra? Sige, na lang.
Sir, makita na.
Let me check. Anak. Okay. Naputol, no? Naputol ba?
Good afternoon, sir. Probably, sir, ang tab na imuhang gi-present sa Google Meet kay ang PowerPoint nga app instead of sa slideshow nga kwan tab, sir.
Yung... This one.
Pwede ra, sir, kanang mo check ka sa Google Meet unya
Ay, wala man. Ay,
kanang
actually,
mo ingon man siya nga choose what to share.
sige lang
Unya,
ha.
you can choose man ata sa Windows. Unya,
Sa
if
Windows.
if imuhang gi-present na daan ang slideshow kay open naman na siya, so pwede nimo pisliton to para makita.
Okay, so ako na siyang before na ko sa i-share, ako sa siyang i-full, right? Kung nawala
Oo.
man yun. Tingnan na. Oh, di na ako makita. Ako. Sige lang.
Kuha siya, sir, kanang na may tulo ka tabs ani ang entire screen, ang Chrome tab ug ang window. Probably makita na nimo siya sa Windows nga tab, inig-visit nimo siya share screen. Oo, sir.
Yeah. Okay, sige lang for now. Ako lang para, anyway, it's almost 4, so you can continue on with the task on your own. Ako continue lang ka, Ani. So, clear pa magkagihapon ni siya. Can you still see
Yes,
this?
sir.
yes sir clear ah.
Okay. So, balik ta. Here. So, you can see this one, right? And nakita na po
Yes,
ninyo.
Yes sir.
Earlier.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, mention about the decomposers, breaking down dead organisms, no? Breaking down and absorb nutrients from the dead organisms. So that's what we call the decomposers. Example: mushrooms, bacteria, and then you have the type of feeding relationship. You also have the commensalism. Commensalism, one party, one organism is benefiting, but the other one is dead man, not affected in any way. So that's commensalism. And the other one is mutualism. This is give and take, no? And I think you are familiar with this as well. The other one, both of them are benefiting. An example is the tick birds eating the parasites of the rhino. And then you have parasitism. Parasitism is also a common example in all organisms. Even humans have this kind of feeding relationships, no, with other organisms where the parasites eat some of our portions, especially when exposed to this kind of parasites. One organism benefits and the other one is harmed. Example, mga bulati sa tiyan sa mga bata, that's one type of, that's an example of parasitism. No? The tapeworm living inside a person's intestine. Okay? Then you have this another concept, fundamental concept in ecology, food chain and food webs. When you say food chain, basically a linear direction, no? Like of different linear direction, the relationships of the different organisms. And makita ninyo sa right side, no? Sa right image, but left side, pwede siyang one direction, but at the same time, as on top, I mean, you have the grass eaten by a cow, and the cow is eaten by the human. So one direction of the energy flow. So basically, when we eat, the feeding relationship also is an energy flow, no? From the grass to the cow, and cow to human. So that's food chain. But in reality, most of the time, that's always a food web. When we say a food web, more complicated than a food chain, there are several links between different kinds of organisms. And these different kinds of links, represented by the arrows, also represent the flow of energy from one organism to the other and to the other and to the other. So when I say food web, more complicated than the food chain, then it shows more than one food source for each organism. Like for example, in humans, there are several sources that we can actually use as our food, correct? We can eat plants, we can eat animals, but the different kinds of animals as well. And these different kinds of animals, there are other links between them also. So if you track them and you trace them, it becomes the food web. So it's more realistic view of the energy transfer in the real world. Okay? Any questions so far? Clarifications? Or anything you want to talk about in relation to what I discussed?
Excuse
Wala?
me, sir. Ay, hello, sir.
Hello?
Hello. Ay, can I be heard, sir?
Yes.
Sir. I know clarifications from me, sir, pero we wanted to ask if you're going to upload this PowerPoint in the classroom after. Ay, okay, sir. Thank you
Yes,
so much,
yes.
sir.
So all the materials that I will be showing, I will upload to our Google Classroom. Also, additional readings will be coming up, and at the same time, I will be refining as well the tasks. I will give simple tasks. For example, the next one. So I want you to do a tracing of the energy flow by constructing a food chain and a food web. Simple lang siya. Katong-kato lang similar to this. Actually, similar to this one. Kaning naa sa image, sa babaw na ay food chain. Grass, cow, human. Pero of course, sa inyong buhaton, ayaw po ng grass, cow, and human. Sa diba? Diba? Parihan lang. So I will be asking you to construct a food chain similar to that above, and then a food web as well. A simple food web. It doesn't have to be very complicated. For as long as it's a web, in a way, not a chain, then that is okay. So the details of the task will be uploaded in the Google Classroom. Okay? Any questions or clarification?
Ay, ano sir ka lang. For the task today, sir ka lang. Kano sang iyang deadline, ani sir?
And that's something that we have to agree. Thank you very much for asking that. So your task is to construct a food chain and a food web. There will be a very short description, maybe around 100 words, on the explaining the food chain and the food web, especially the energy flow. Okay, so with that, when do you want the deadline be? So it's a negotiation between you and me. And I want you to decide on that, and also factoring in possible activities that you will have with the other courses so that you can balance out your time. If actually, if you will do this in 1 hour after the class, or even 30 minutes, you'll be able to finish it. I will after this discussion, I will refine the task as shown in the Google Classroom. So when do you want the deadline be?
Ay, hello sir ka lang. Okay ra ni sir, next week. Na Tuesday.
Next week?
Opo.
Huh?
Next week sir na Tuesday.
What, Tuesday next week?
Opo.
Okay.
It's okay na, sir.
Before midnight. Tuesday
Yes, sir.
next week before midnight. Sige. So akong i-include na sa dito sa Google Classroom nga tasks, no, sa assignments. Any other concerns?
Thank you, sir, Mora, sir. On our end.
That's all?
Ay, excuse
Okay,
me,
so
sir.
yes.
Do we draw the food chain or food web, or like pwede na mag-edit o kanang graphic or chart, sir, for it?
Yeah, but you can actually draw in any ways for as long as you can show the the chain and the web, then that's okay. Whether handwritten, whether using the kind of art applications, anything that you can use. You are free to use or to do whatever for as long as you be able to accomplish the tasks. Whether you can use an AI if you want. And I will give the the criteria of scoring as well. No? But I would really appreciate it if the description would really come from your own so that the retention of what you understand and learn in this lesson will be retained for the longest because kung copy-paste, kamo ra Japon ang makuan. Ako ang score pero somehow the retention will be shorter. So if you will do that, on your own, you write and then you upload to any AI to provide you a nicer drawing, that's okay. At least that is your own construction and you help the refinement of the image using the AI tool. I'm not actually prohibiting you to use AI because AI is an amazing the AI applications that you can find on the internet are amazing tools that can help you learn more, diba? So I'm not prohibiting you in using any of the AIs. And if that can help you to produce a nicer output, why not? Diba? So that's all. So I will just send the criteria for scoring. All right. So anything else?
Ako, sir, another thing, sir, kay ano ka nang, sa turn in it, Mr. Wano? Sakto ba, sir?
Yes, turn it in mo submit.
Okay, sir.
Turn it in. Remember ka ng turn it
Turn in.
in. You turn in the assignment. You turn it in.
Okay, sir.
And
Thank
I
you, sir.
think tanan naka-register na, no? And again, as I said, in the turn it in, I will also create an assignment task where you can actually submit. Then at the same time, you are allowed, no? So the first submission, I will not check it. I will not record it. But rather, the first submission is for you to gauge if there are similarities of what you did to other sources. Then you can revise and refine it. And you submit the second one, the second time, and then check again if there are similarities of what you did to other works published by others. And also the AI, because that turn it in will also detect proportions or outputs that are created by AI. So especially on the descriptions, I want that to be your own output. So the internet in can detect the AI. So you can revise again until the third submission. The third submission is the one that I will be scoring, evaluating, scoring, and the recording. Okay? So AI is beautiful. Eternity is beautiful, and I want you to utilize that as something that will help you before the final submission is recorded. The third one, the first and the second one, assistive in nature sa inyuha. I do that. I also use Turnitin to check on my works because there are times that I will, there are tendencies sometimes that even if we type it on our own, that realizing that those that we were typing are ideas of other people that we have to cite. We have to acknowledge that because these are their ideas that we are typing in. So that's okay, especially when you write long essays, publications, and that's so important na siya. Okay? Any other clarifications? Wala na? Sige. Alright. And thank you so much for your understanding on some technicalities earlier. And thank you so much for your attention and thank you so much for the time attending the class. I really appreciate that. And I will meet you next Monday, the same time. And I will check if we can sometimes meet face to face because it's nicer to, to discuss face to face. But let's see if we are allowed. Especially there is a memo where classes should be conducted online. Kaya kasi makapisuhin noon ko, no? Because the university is really, really concerned about your safety. Kay naarabay construction. But let's see. Again, thank you so much, everyone, and good afternoon.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
If there are concerns, just chat, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Noted.
Easy.
Yes,
Noted,
Anytime.
sir.
All right.
Goodbye,
Take care
sir.
always wherever you are.
Goodbye, sir.
Bye, sir. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Sir.
Bye.
Bye, sir.
Bye, everyone. Take care always.
Take
Take
care,
care
sir.
po, sir.
Bye-bye.